Yeah, total gross value was probably 50 million. By the way, I lost it all in a divorce. It's a different story. It's a horrible thing. Don't get divorced. But if I would have kept it all today, I'd probably be worth 30 million. Nice number. And I
So
would be enjoying a nice passive income, probably a couple $1,000s a day. Hi, how are you?
how you
I'm
doing,
in
Duane?
the middle of Greece, in the middle of the Cyclades. That's the island chain that makes up Mykonos, Santorini, Naxos, Paros. There's a sea in the middle of it, and I'm just floating along on my boat. And I turned off the engine. I'm idling so I can have this conversation with you.
Where are you from, Duane? Where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Los Angeles, California.
How would you describe your childhood?
Americana. I had a brother and two sisters. My parents were very ambitious immigrants, first generation immigrants, worked like crazy. I was offered a lot of opportunity to learn a lot of things very young. So I had a lot of opportunity that many people may not. I learned how to work very young and produce things and got to see the world or lots of parts of it back in I'm 61. So that was in the mid 60s through the 70s and 80s. And, uh, and so we were taught, a lot of respect. And my mom and dad stayed together. So I had a very stable household. And my father was very rigid and not very easy for me to get along with. He was very strict and, was he ruled with a stiff hand.
Was he very
And
successful, Duane?
very, yeah,
Do
yep,
you think do you think you inherited something from him?
absolutely. They had my mom and my dad and my uncles. We had a huge family around us. We believed that we could do anything. We always had an optimistic attitude, but it wasn't because you just sit around and wait for shit to come. You didn't ask other people what to do. You identify a problem and then you go about solving it. And you believe that you're going to succeed. You believe you're going to win. You believe you're going to succeed.
So it's that traditional, classic American, California, take on the world, optimism. We can do anything we want of that era. That was the era of the 60s and 70s, right? That was
Yeah,
post. That was Nixon. That was post Kennedy. That was flying to the moon. An
that's right.
incredible period in the United States.
That's right. Yeah. We were riding a high on the results. Even then, the America won the World War II, so we can do anything and we have everything. And it was a time when the laws were conducive to growth. So if you bought a piece of property and you wanted to improve it, a permit was just assumed and for nothing, 25, $50, a couple $100, you could go build yourself a 30,000 square foot restaurant. Amazing. And there was, that was the land of, Disneyland opened like in 1964, I think. And that was like, what? You can make a land of your own within a place. You can create a land and, amusement park. Well, what is this? Hollywood was there. You could just make up anything you want. People would say, oh, yeah, we could do this. Let's do this. Let's just, yeah, of course you can do it. It's just how you fly to the moon. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. Why? Why not? Everything, everything. So that's the era that I grew up.
And tell me then, when you moved into construction, right? You built your first house at, was it 15 years of age, supervised by your father or something,
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I started working with my dad when I was 12. Pretty much every minute I had that wasn't, consumed by school or family, my dad would make sure I got taken on the job sites, and he was building lots of things. They would build schools and hospitals and houses and just stuff all over LA. And so at one point, and he would often loan people money to buy a house, and then they would default on the loan, and then he'd end up having the house. And so they would be in bad repair. And so by the time I was 15, my dad said, "Hey, why don't you take care of, overseeing and remodeling this house?" It was a small 2 or 3 bedroom thing. And I was like, okay. And he one of his brothers, my uncle's, was a good carpenter.
Mm.
And he said, okay, well, Roger will do whatever you need him to do. And you can just order everything. And he had a real office, so I got to use the office, and I'd have Roger, and I'd go out there and stand with him and other guys and show me how to put doors and windows, and hired the stucco guy, and I got the whole thing done. I mean, and then he re-rented it out. I got paid, not a lot. $5 an hour.
you were 15, 16 years of age at the time,
15.
right?
Yeah. I had to walk around. I didn't have a car, but I got on the phone, I'd sit in his office and call people. Hey, I need this, I need that, need this, need that. And you'd find it. And we had access. It would, because, it was a big contracting office. So that's where it was just pounded into me. Didn't play sports in high school. It was frowned upon. So that, it's kind of unusual upbringing. We'll say that. I'm not sure I'd wish it upon even my enemies, because it's like, I mean, everybody else was doing that stuff, but my dad was kind of psycho. He would say, "Oh, sports are for kids who don't have the opportunity to work."
Wow.
Yeah, that was his, and if I disagreed with him, and he'd be mad around the house. So
did he not see the value in play and camaraderie and teamwork and all that kind of stuff?
No, he wasn't into it.
Was it a Germanic kind of Northern European work ethic?
Yeah, he was hardcore German. Hardcore. We got to succeed, because, he was in World War II, and he was like, we got to beat the Russians. We got to stay focused. There's no time for play. We have to finish. And that was how it was, I wanted to play, believe me. I mean, I got to go down on the weekend or on the after, I'd sneak in times, and we'd go play a little basketball, and I'd go on the field, sandlot, hit the ball, play baseball with guys. But organized sports where it takes your afternoon and you have to commit to it 5 days a week for 2 hours a day, that bullshit. Go play. Yeah, you can go play a little bit with your neighbors and your friends. We had neighbors all over the place. We'd have swarm of kids running around. And I learned how to wrestle, and I learned a little bit about sports and all that stuff. But organized sports, no. I mean, I did play one year. In 8th grade, I learned how to wrestle, and I was on the wrestling team. And I was really good. I went undefeated because my neighbors taught me how to wrestle. But my dad never came and saw. Then my mom, they were too busy with my sisters and my brother. My sisters mostly. I had older sisters who were very high maintenance. But I learned how to produce, and I learned that. So I had a lot of skills, but regardless of that, there was always this attitude that, yeah, if you try something, you will succeed. And it's interesting. I have my brother, who's a very successful clothing designer, and he's built his own brand from nothing. And I will say, my parents were well off. I mean, they weren't billionaires, but we owned houses and cars and second houses, and yeah, we were comfortable. They never gave us a penny. Not a penny.
Well, apart from money, but they gave you many other things, Duane. They gave you
absolutely. Yeah.
A work.
But isn't like,
ethic.
Oh, here's a bunch of cash, go start this thing. It's like, if I did ask my dad for money, he'd say, well, what's in it for me? Like if I said, okay, I'm going to go build this house, Dad. I'm going to buy this lot and build this house. And I need, it was, hey, do you want to make an investment? And he was not, I mean, he was shrewd. I like my first real individual deal I did on my own. I was like 30, not first one, but one of, and I went to a different area, and I needed a cosigner from the bank. and I didn't have enough credit because it was a big spec house. So I had to go grovel back and ask my dad if he would do it. And he said, yeah, I'll take 30% of the upside. I'll give you a signature.
Okay. So you went to college, you graduated from college, and you were working. You started your business, right? Are you saying 30 years of age was really when you started?
I got out of school. I traveled for a couple of years to see the world because I never had before that. That was cool. I just kind of backpack, shoestring, went through Southeast Asia and Australia. And then I came back and I was like, all right, I want to make some money. So I had my degree. I have a degree in engineering. And with that,
Construction,
I was able to,
civil engineering, is it?
yeah. And I was able to get my contractor's license. And I started bidding work for people. And I started doing just everything, anything from a little backyard pergola and some slabs. And I finally got a contract for a couple big custom homes. I was like 27, 28.
Is this in LA or is this up north this is in
Orange
LA,
County.
right?
Orange County. Yeah.
Right.
South Orange County. And then a guy I knew from college, he owned an empty piece of land way out in the country in a place called Temecula, which was like almost not populated at the time. It was a good 2-hour drive. It's out on the outskirts of the edge of growth. And he had a lot, which is, there was many of them out there, and he owned it. And he was an older guy. He was my math teacher. And I knew him because he would see me working all the time. And when I'd walk into math class, he'd say, how come you're fucking all dirty all the time? And I'd laugh. I said, oh, because that's what I do. I build, and I'm going to college full time. And he says, oh, interesting. You're a builder. Because I have this piece of property out in the country. I always thought I'd save it and build it someday. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. And that was it. And then it was maybe 8 years later, and I was like trying to find my own job to build. And I remembered, like, well, that guy had that empty lot. I wonder what he's doing with it. So I called him and I said, hey, you want to throw it in the pool and we'll build a spec house? He goes, that's a great idea. I'll never build that thing. He bought it for $10,000, $20,000, maybe 10, 15 years before. And so I built it, and I called my bunch of friends and family. I put 20,000 here, 30,000 there, and I built it for a couple $100,000. And then it didn't sell. And I had to sit on it. I rented it out for like $1,200 a month. And it just
did that cover the cost of the mortgage or the financing?
Well, there was no mortgage at the time. It was just people had investment in it, and they were getting a piece of the profit, right? And then a big event happened in 2000 or in 1991. If you look this up, it was called the Oakland Hills Firestorm. 1991. Yeah, it was September 1991. There was a big fire right in the middle of the yellow dot where the best real estate is. Houses, individual houses, small.
Oakland is in San Francisco, right? Just on the north.
It has a view of San Francisco.
Bridge.
Yeah. You see that beautiful Bay Bridge.
Bay Bridge,
the downtown view. It's the best view in Northern California. Better than in San Francisco. And so 3,500 houses burned down in one day. So now it was opportunity for guys like me, single family home building guys. So I flew up there and I needed cash to buy some empty land. So I called all the guys who invested in my property and I said, hey, I have no note against this, but I have this $1,200 a month that I'm renting this house for. It's a big house, like 4,000-foot house, 4 bedrooms, big kitchen. It's an executive home. It's a gorgeous big home. And I built it all just with most of it, my sweat equity and labor. Like I did almost all the labor on it myself. So I kept the cost pretty low. And I went to the bank. I said, hey, look, I have this income from the rent. Will you loan me against this house? And they said, yeah, sure. Cause they want to make a loan. So they loaned me 200,000. I took that 200,000. I went to Oakland and I bought my first 2 empty properties. It burned out lots. And then I ran around, went to banks till I found somebody who would loan me just the construction money, which at the time the numbers worked out. This was 90. I started getting going about late 92, early 93. Took about a year to make all that happen. year and a half, 18 months maybe. And I borrowed money. Like, I think I paid 90,000 for the lot. I put like 300,000 into the construction, and I sold it for 525,000 bucks, and paid realtors out of that 6%. I mean, 5% maybe at the time. 25, 30,000. There's closing costs and taxes and shit. And so you work your ass off for a year, you make 100 grand. And I did that once, but once I did that, everybody saw I was building really beautiful homes, because I was very, my signature is very artisan homes,
Custom built.
custom built, and a lot of artisan pieces. Like, I will make my own concrete steps, for example, and I'll put patterns in them, and I will build custom pieces of furniture along the way. I mean, I'm going to do the foundation of the frame and run the tractor and dig it all up and get the frame up. That's just, sticks and bricks. But how you finish it off is, I learned a lot of trades. I got very lucky. One thing my dad did for me, he put me on with a very special guy when I was like 15, 16. One of his foremen was a guy named Jerry Houlet. And Jerry Houlet was the foreman previously for Walt Disney when they built Disneyland. And so after that job was over, my dad hired him to build these amazing restaurants that he was building that were themed. And so Jerry, I worked for Jerry. It was one of his superintendents, and I just to show up every day. And it was sort of like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. Well, they taught me all these trades to wax on, just how to make concrete look like wood and make wood look like concrete, and to fuck around with different materials to make, and then you have them a serviceable thing that looks beautiful. And so I knew a lot of.
Was he an expert in design, do you think, Duane? Was he a brilliant designer?
No, we knew how to hire designers.
Okay.
Design is an art, and art is something that's intuitive, but it's also learned. You have to study a lot to really appreciate art of the time. And it's just like anything, you have to hire people who are excellent in what they do and then collaborate with them. And so what the trade I was really taught was how to appreciate everybody's really good craft. I mean, you have to hire really good engineers too, right?
Mm.
You have to hire good soils engineers, mechanical engineers, and structural engineers, and site engineers, and then exterior architects, interior architects, site planners, colorists. There's 8 people right there you could hire on any site, and then get the best of each of them and make them all work together, dovetail to make something beautiful. That's what I do. And then I have my own crafts as well. And
so with the opportunity in Oakland Hills, right, that you saw, how come there wasn't loads of other construction companies trying to rebuild? Like, how did you get in there? You had a difficult lot.
There were loads of there was a zillion of them. They came from all over the country. And there's a lot of circumstances that make people succeed and not succeed. I saw a lot of guys, they came and they worked hard, but then you had to I was at the right age at the right time. I was young and single, so I could stay anywhere. And I did meet a woman there who I partnered up with, and she was a designer, and we worked together, and that was pretty cool. And there's, some guys did succeed, but I wasn't a track home builder. I wasn't like, today there's huge builders in America. There's Shea Homes and KB Homes and Semco Homes. There's all these, they build thousands and thousands of units a year. Well, they can't do what I do, build one house at a time and make money on it. They got to just do mass construction. So in the Oakland Hills, each lot was individually owned. So they could never go in there and buy 1,000 at one time. they need to go and buy 100 acres. It's empty, carve them up, boom. That's their program. So those guys were no competition. So I'm really only competing against other guys who do one at a time, two at a time, three, maybe four. But beyond that, it just gets too complicated to do something really well. And so there was 3,000 lots. I mean, I ended up building 50 of them up there.
50.
And
In what period of time, Duane? How long are we talking here? Is it 2 years, 5 years?
For 30 years, I built 3 big projects a year. And they weren't always homes. I built commercial buildings, but I went from ground up. That means buying the land, do the whole development process. You got to identify it, buy it. You got to buy it right. You got to invest it. I mean, and you got to get it financed. You got to design it. You got to engineer it. You got to build it. You got to maintain, sell it, and then manage the sale or the after sale. If you like if you build something perfect and then something goes wrong and it gets a leak or whatever, and if you don't fix that leak, they're going to come back and sue you. But worse than that, it's going to fuck your name up. So, you have to every one of those 7 things I just identified, if you screw up the engineering, doesn't matter how good the design is, it won't work, right? And if you screw up the buy, if you pay too much for it in the beginning, then it doesn't matter how well you do the other 6, you'll never make money on it. So you have to pay the right amount, blah, 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 blah. You have to sell it for the right amount. You have to have a good, sales team, whatever, or rent it. And then you have to have a management process in order to rent it out and hold it. So you have to play all the positions on the field. So how many guys are there who are scrappy enough and strong enough, to run up and down hillsides, because these are hills, they're not flat land, and to run up and down hillsides, you got to run to the bottom, even if just to look to see if they tied in the drainage ring. Well, if you're kind of a fat, lazy dude who thinks he's going to watch a job site by sitting in your truck, you're so wrong. You have to be fit, because you got to run up and down. These are, 200 feet down, a lot of steps, 4 or 5 flights of stairs. You got to run down, run back up. I do that 20 times a day. Keeps you fit as hell. Just looking at the stuff. Forget about building it. And then when you see at the bottom, you see something left, you grab a couple sticks and carry them back up with you. You got to get them back up. They're just going to sit down there and be a problem. All that crap. So how many guys have, but really the question is, how come I kept going? Because believe me, there was a million hardships. Just like anything.
Why did you keep going?
Because I was always told that you're going to succeed. Nothing's okay. Two things that we were always preached in our circle is nothing succeeds like success. And how that played out is, as soon as I built a couple of really nice houses, my phone started ringing and other people want me to, it's like Joe Rogan today. How come everybody wants to be on Joe Rogan's podcast? Because they know they're going to get seen and heard by millions.
But it wasn't always that way with Joe Rogan, right? So, and it wasn't, you have to start somewhere, and you have to have the work ethic.
That's
and you
right.
have to have, I suppose.
And Joe started out as a comedian, being scrappy. He's told his story a million times. Everybody has a story. I have the story. My story is almost the same. I wasn't a comedian or anything, but how come when I was 16, I just kept on pouring concrete? I mean, I wanted to go play. Now somebody told me to do that. But I really followed by example.
What's the hardest thing about hiring and managing people? Collaborating. What's difficult about that?
People think that things are going to be too easy. They have no respect for things that are hard. It's whatever you do, anything done well is not simple. Whether you're selling cars or sewing shirts or pouring concrete or running a podcast, How many people do you have to call in order to get one meeting? Just like our meeting between us. We've been trying to schedule this for weeks. Find a time in a moment, but we keep calling each other back. Right. And when I hire, so there's certain people who's out begging for a job normally. Somebody who lost their last job, probably. Why? It's because they was too hard and quit. And I have to admit, I had a good contract I had a really good contract to make people perform. I did do that, and that was good management. But employees just have to go by example, and people tend to cull themselves out of a situation where where it's so obvious they're pulled out. So I was a very hands-on working guy, and I would show up to my job sites always 10 minutes earlier than everybody else was expected to. So I would see who show up, right? And I had a pretty rigid policy. I'd say, hey, man, I want you here at 7:00, and that means you're ready to work at 7, not getting out of your car at 7. That means I want to see at 7:00, I want to see assholes and elbows. And what that means in the construction trade is you're bending over working, you're picking up your shit, right? You're running and you're bending over and running. And that's what you do in construction, just about any trade. You got to bend over and pick stuff up. It starts on the ground and you lift it up. Whether you're doing countertops or painting or electrical or whatever it is, there is no trade that you don't do that. And so if they see me there at 7 and I'm picking shit up, that's the example. And if they're like going and hey man, they're carrying a cup of coffee, it's like, no, you don't bring coffee into my job site. Don't bring your can of Coke in. If you bring a can of Coke inside of a job site, I don't care what stage it's in, that thing spills over, it attracts ants. Even if it's the rough frame, even if it's the foundation. You don't bring around sugar and leave it everywhere. Bugs come. It's just horrible shit, right? It's like go into your office, put a can of Coke there and spill it all over your desk. People freak, but you do it on a construction site, it's okay. That's just the type of thing. I mean, I could go on, but I led by example. Keep it clean, tight, sharp, show up. And I do it first. Once I get 2 or 3 people around you doing the same thing, everybody else falls in the line because they're too embarrassed not to produce. So that's employees and subcontractors. They had a 1-page contract. It was all on 1 page, tightly spaced, readable size, 12-point. Basically, it says, this is your job. This is the price. Refer to the plans for specifications. I'm not specifying anything on here. Refer to that document and that document. This is our contract. You sign at the bottom. And one of the most important lines on there says, I'm going to give you 3 days to perform, to get to the point where you're going to perform. If you don't perform, we will have others perform your work for you at your expense.
Pretty tough. You're a strict disciplinarian. But here's what I'm hearing, right? So you set the culture for the organization by leading by example. So you set the culture, and this is how we're going to work. Yeah. And it comes right from the top.
That's right. And I was not absentee and just like on the phone telling people what to do. I showed up, I stood there. Right. And I would love to muck in every day, man. I'm going to pick up a shovel and, transfer a pile of sand. I love doing that. And I get pumped and strong. And I will say that is a huge reason why I'm still as fit as I am today.
What age are you, Duane?
61. And I don't like go to a gym and work out, but I'll tell you, I can throw 2 2x12s on my back and run up a hill. I compete swimming now. I didn't really learn how to swim until I was 55. I mean, really competitively. I could always swim because I surfed, but to learn to competitively swim, I learned that at 55 because I joined it's called the Masters. Anybody can do it. They're all over the world. It's basically people who just want to swim every day. And there was a coach there, and I listened to her. She's kind of crazy. She used to be, I think, an Olympic swimmer, and then now she coaches. And this lady who was my age, she might even younger than me, yelling at me every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. Stretch out your arms further. Kick. I would laugh at her. I go, fuck, I'm volunteering to be here. It's like, what are we going to do? Am I going to win the Olympics? But guess what? I go now and I compete at the Spectathlon. 3 years ago, I got the bronze. Last year, I got the silver. And in a 3,000 meter run. So it's a great feeling to be 60 and to swim 3,000 meters. That's a long way from land.
In open
And I
ocean.
just, yeah, open ocean. I could just keep going. I could keep going for hours, just hours. It's like walking.
Duane, tell me about the business, right? How big did it grow? How much money are we talking here?
So I was doing single family homes, and then I slowly transferred into building multi-units. So in my 30s, I was doing singles. I would do one average every 120 days. It would take me 9 to 18 months to build, but I'd do a new start, so on. A lot of my time was involved in finding new properties to build. And so people would call who owned empty land, and they would say, hey, I see you're a developer, you want to work with me, do you want to buy this land or whatever? And so once you're successful, and people see that you can complete a project. And this is the thing, I asked almost anybody I built a home for or with, or people who I worked with. And I asked them, I go, how come you chose me to work with? And they all said the same thing. They said, because I knew it was going to get done.
Okay, competence. They knew you were competent.
Yeah, it's not that they said, oh, you're a nice guy, I liked you. That wasn't why. It was because they knew their money was at stake, and they wanted to make sure it was invested in something that was going to be successful.
How did they know you were that competent? From seeing the other work, was it?
Finish over and over. They saw me finish.
Yeah.
Right. They saw it get completed, and they were well built, and I had a good reputation. Your reputation will travel so fast. So fast. And if you go and build a fence for somebody, a front yard fence, and if you don't have the contract, go to somebody's house who's got a piece of shit fence in their front yard and say, hey, I will mow your lawn and build you a no fence for 1/10 what it's just the cost of the wood. They say, why? They say, because I just want your house to be beautiful, because I intend to be part of this neighborhood, and I want the whole neighborhood to be beautiful. And if your house is worth more, my houses are going to be worth more. And they will say yes.
Okay.
And then go build. It takes a week to build a fence, 5 days of your time. And then put your sign out. Just put a really nice plaque. Have it carved out of brass. Don't put it on the top. Put it at the bottom, down in the corner. They'll find it.
So what I'm hearing here is be prepared at the start to go out on a limb, maybe do something for free, bust your ass, do the best job you possibly can, and safe in the knowledge that your reputation will grow.
Yeah. I mean, once you know what you're doing, you go work for a contractor for 2 to 4 years. I mean, if you have no college, you're 18 years old, you don't know what to do, go walk on a job site and say, hey, I want to pick up trash. I want to be your trash picker upper. And then bring your own bags that are more efficient or something. Figure out a way to be more efficient. Within 2 weeks, that guy's going to say, oh my God, this guy knows how to get shit done. He knows how to organize stuff. Say, hey, I separated all your trash in different piles so we can save money on recycling. You will find some way to be efficient. Something. You will, if you want to do that. And they're going to start raising you up. And then you say, hey, I really want to learn this trade. I want to learn that trade. Other subcontractors will see you and they'll go, hey, man, I mean, my good guys got hit up all the time for other subs saying, hey, you want to come work for me? Totally. And if they want to leave.
How big did the business grow, Duane?
What happened is over time, now in America, there's a interesting rule. If you build a property and you don't sell it and you rent it, the equity is not taxed. I think it's pretty much true anywhere in the world. So if you get some investors together and you build something and you don't sell it, well, then of course there's equity in it because it's worth, some of the parts is worth more. So you need just do an example. You build something buy land for 100, or even last one I just sold it for 2.75. Closed yesterday. And
Is
I
that
built that.
2.75 million, Duane?
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's a lot of money, but I found a partner. He put in $500,000. We put about 1.5 million into construction, sold it for 2.75, paid realtors a couple hundred. We had about $500,000 in equity. And I was renting it. If I would have I would have kept renting it had Oakland not changed their rental rules. That's a different story. It's turning communist there. So tough luck for me. So there's one of those situations where, I could sit around and bitch and whine, but it's happening to everybody. So I ended up having to sell it because I couldn't rent it anymore. I'll have to pay tax on that money at some level. There's some write-offs, but so over the first 10 years, I built a lot of single family homes and I built up a lot of equity, and I would 1031 exchange every time I could. That means you keep your equity and you turn it into something bigger or something else. I ended up buying apartments. I rented those out and I accumulated about 30 properties by the time I was about 48. And so from the time I was 28 to 48, over 20 years, I accumulated a nice pile of properties. The gross value of those at the time, this was 13 years ago, was, this is, total gross value was probably 50 million. My equity at the time was probably just 6 million. And if I would have, but that was at the bottom of the market, it dropped. Within a few years later, it was probably going to be 10. If I would have held on to everything today, and when I'm 61, by the way, I lost it all in a divorce. It's a different story. It's a horrible thing. Don't get divorced. But if I would have kept it all today, I'd probably be worth 30 million. Nice number. And I would be enjoying a nice passive income, probably a couple $1,000s a day in passive income. I engineered that. That came from carrying boards up hills and just showing up every day at 7:00. So it compounds. Divorce, well, for me, it was disastrous.
What age were you when you got divorced?
I walked out of the courtroom with a clean slate at 53.
How did you find that process?
It's horrible. It's grotesque. It's modern day slavery. I can't even believe it's legal. I can't believe it's the law. Well, maybe I can believe it's the law because I've seen how corrupt law is.
How did that experience, that divorce experience, and it was a protracted divorce over 3 years or something, how did that affect your mental health?
It's my kids. There was no court order taking my kids away from me because I never was accused of any wrongdoing. But because the way the law works, what existing roles you have in your marriage is assumed that those roles will continue. So it's like the old adage, the beatings will continue until morale improves. That's kind of the way it is in divorce, because if I've set up a standard where my ex-wife took care of the house and the kids every day and I went to work. So when you get divorced, they say, well, that's the way it's going to stay. So if the kids want to go and hang out with you, well, that's nice. Good for you. But primarily, they're going to create a situation where she has direct control of the kids every day. And so I didn't realize I was setting up my own, prison cell. I trusted her, and that was my mistake. I should have been way more proactive in raising the kids. I should have been Mr. Dad, like, oh, I'm taking it's Tuesdays and Thursdays are my days to take them to school. But that's kind of stupid if you have somebody you can trust and get along with. I mean, hey, I was home every night, every day to see my kids. Like I built a 10,000-foot shop in the back of our property, and my daughter would come down and I'd help her make a little things for her car or for her life. And, I helped my daughters raise their horses, and I was very active in their lives doing stuff, but taking them to school and taking them to doctor's appointments and all that kind of crap, the stuff they have to do. My wife definitely did that. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. But in court, that's what they look at. They say, well, who takes the kids to the doctor's offices? Mom. So we're going to let her have all the money to keep doing that, providing for the kids that way. So what does that leave for dad? Oh, only in the off time. So then once but I'm not in the house anymore. So what happens to you? You're just like this person who better be sending a check. So they don't recognize the other side of it. And they just don't recognize it. That's not part of the law. So you end up being, just a provider. You're a tax slave, a tax mule.
So there was a massive financial and emotional impact from the divorce, and you lost financially as well as the kids. You lost financially.
Yeah,
your business.
My ex-wife planned it for several years. She was my partner in business and had a minority role, but she was still my partner in the company. And so she was very clever about when she planned this for a couple of years. And my divorce is a very special case. She was by a person who was very planned. She was a big planner, and she planned this divorce for years. So the net result to me was almost, I walked away broke. I walked away with zero. I had some assets, but I had huge debts as well. The debts and the assets managed. They equaled. And so I basically was a zero. I went from having, millions of dollars of assets and liabilities to zero, or some assets and some liabilities, but they netted out to zero. And so I had to start over again at 53. And that's the truth. And so, yes, how did I feel? It's really hard to look up at that mountain again and go, oh my God, I got to climb all those steps. I remember when it really struck home. I was out of the house. I wasn't seeing my kids. My ex-wife was doing her level best to make sure that it was never convenient for me to see them. It affected my son a lot too. It was horrible. And my daughters, 3 of them. And of course I was sad every day. And I remember standing in at 53 in the parking lot, that dirty, ugly parking lot of Home Depot in the morning, 6 o'clock, with all the other guys who are having to buy their lumber. I mean, that's like the low man position's job, right? I had to move all the way back to that point again. It's like, don't pass go, do not collect $200, go back to the beginning and start your way around that game again. And standing there just going, oh my God, I was just like, I was sleeping on a friend's couch. He gave me his basement, and I didn't even have a job. A friend of mine hired me as a carpenter.
So that's quite a come down from owning.
Yeah. I went from living on a ranch, having my own plane, and, collecting rents from probably 40 different properties every month and managing that. And then we'd have setbacks too, tractor would blow up and house wouldn't sell. You end up in a lawsuit. You have unexpected expenses, but you have all this income to offset it, right? And you're running a business. And the end result, though, you have all these assets that ultimately would become ripe and pay off. So you have a huge incentive for a payoff. But to go from that to like big zero and standing in line to buy, your payoff is if you buy the right boards that day and you carry them to the job site and you make $100. And so slowly I had to put it together, but I knew how to find a new opportunity, right? So I approached my old investors and I said, look, got this lot. I found one. I ended up finding properties and building houses again. And I had my pedigree of being able to be successful. So guys invested in me again. I put together investors again, but I started from zero. Yeah. At 53. I started from zero when I was 29. I started from zero again. My first time I went zero was at 19 or 20. I built a spec house. It didn't sell. And we had to sell it for just what we had into it. So there was the third time I'd gone broke. And I mean, it's not nice, it's not happy. And the worst part of it was just not seeing my kids. It's a horrible thing. But that's our process. That's our system.
So Duane, at the time of the divorce, right? Did you get any counseling or therapy or therapeutic help? Did the services offer you any help on that side for your emotional well-being?
No, the government doesn't, but did I do it myself? Hell yes. I sought out all kinds of help to understand why and how this was happening. Yeah, totally. I mean, you're like going from having this routine every day to basically becoming a prisoner. 70% or 80% of all divorces are caused by women. And the ones that men do are usually a function of the woman not being, right. It's not, guys don't leave, women leave. This is well known. It's well documented. And there's a system called our legal system, which is just lives off this. They just love this. So you become a part of that structure. And so I had to understand why this was happening. And Larry Bellotta does a great job explaining the mechanics of why this happens. I won't go into it here. You can learn all about it if you research, why the psychology behind why women leave. There's all kinds of reasons, but it happens. So, but you have to keep yourself together. Okay. You have to stay positive. It was hard. And I had a lot of help from friends. I had a really strong, my side of the family was very strong. There was a time when I started, one thing I did is I looked historically. I said, well, okay, I'm sitting here alone now, 53, lost all this shit. Where did I come from? Who was I from? And I did a big research on my grandfather, who died, by the way, when he was 53, before I was born, 10 years before I was born. And I put something in perspective to myself at that moment. I was like, wait a minute. I could just lay down and be like, fucking life's over. I did all this work. It was so hard. I'm going to quit. I'm just going to collect, I'm going to just be a bricklayer and work a day and go drink every night to ease my pain. And I'm just going to wake up every morning and sort of show up as an average guy. Yeah, you can make a living. It's fine. You can live that way.
Where did you get the motivation from?
Yeah, so I looked at my grandfather and I put this in perspective. He was a very successful guy, by the way. He worked his ass off. He was an immigrant, came here with nothing. He was 28. His wife died after a second kid was born. Giving birth to a second kid, died. And he was like, fuck, I'm alone. He just was, right after the Great Depression of 1928. He was 1932. I think he was like 28 years old. He was born in 2000, or he was born in 1903 or 1904. Whatever. He was late 20s. And his wife's dead. He's got 2 babies. Where the fuck? In New York, there's not social services just sitting around. He had to go and give his kids to the aunts, his dead, deceased wife's sisters. And then he had to go scramble and figure out a way to make a living. And he didn't have that network anymore, didn't have a wife to support him. He ended up in California and he started a new business. He figured out something that needed to be done. They needed food delivery for all the new construction. So he started a food delivery business. And he worked on it really hard. Showed up every morning, stayed every night late, worked his ass off, wake up at 4 a.m, bought his own chickens, had his own eggs, making his own bread. Greek guy. And started making better sandwiches. Deliver them every day. He had 2 trucks, 4 trucks, 10 trucks. ended up being called Orange County Food Service. He was the biggest food delivery company in California. Boom. He's 53. Drunk driver kills him on the road. Bam! Dead. My mom's getting married. No dad now. No mom, no dad. He got remarried. He had my stepmother was very sweet. Step-grandmother, she was great. Called her Jimmy. So, hey, I was still alive. 53. He was dead.
So this is part of the coping strategy, right? You're still
Exactly.
alive. There's
What do I got?
Hmm.
Yeah, who am I to bitch? I wake up every morning with 24 hours, all 10 fingers and 10 toes. What am I bitching about? I'm not dead. What more do you need? You're fucking alive, motherfucker. No, I mean, hey, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. You got to carry that sack of cement up the hill. You got to stay up at 6 o'clock with, carry boards and get splinters. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not a brain surgeon. I had this kick-ass engineer, Stuart Larson. He's about 30 years older than me. For years, he was my engineer in the Oakland Hills. Stu Larson, brilliant guy. He's got his master's, almost his PhD in engineering out of Cal, and he's written papers on engineering, blah, blah, blah. He's a structural engineer. Well-respected guy. I said to him one day, I said, hey, teach me how to do your job. I want to do what you do and I was a developer. I was building houses and getting them done. And he just looked at me and he was like, the fuck are you talking about? You're a developer. Yeah. I goes, yeah, you might have an engineering degree. Technically, you could do this. But dude, you're good at what you do. He goes, because I always wanted to be what you are. But I had to be an engineer. You fucking believe in yourself. He wouldn't teach me.
So do you think it was self-belief, right, that got you through?
Yeah, I mean, I was curious. It looked good to me, to him just sit in the office and tool away, and it's nice. It's quiet. He plays the radio all day. But he was looking at me, going, "I wish I was you." But he couldn't do what I do. I'm good at what I do. I try hard and I care, and I learned these set of skills. Hey, I have a brother. He's a year older than me. He grew up in the exact same circumstances, same place, same time. He fucked off a lot more. He played sports in high school. He didn't care what my dad said. He would just bullshit his way around it. But he worked hard. He is now one of the world's best, our most popular clothing designers. You see his clothes all over the place. You don't know it. His name's August McGregor, David August Clothing. One of his more well-known clients is Conor McGregor. So you see the line August McGregor. It's a line of clothing. They have, they do drops all the time. They make sweet sweatshirts, t-shirts. That's a sideline for him, side business. But he does that with Conor. Like Conor has his own whiskey and shit. Well, this is his clothing line. But David August, he has his own line of fine men's clothing. David's getting married in a couple of weeks for his third time. So he's had to restart. Believe me, when he gets divorced, it costs him a lot. So, and he's gone broke. Well, I don't know, broke, but lost a lot a couple times. He had partners who totally ripped him off. But he focuses on it. He keeps going.
What advice would you have for a 53-year-old man who's getting divorced? He's losing all his money. He's really struggling emotionally, mentally. And what would you say to him?
You got to remember what you loved, something, and let that be your goal. You got to have a goal. Goals are so important. And I run out of goals sometimes too. Like my goal was to sail around the world, right? And in 5 years, I didn't make it yet. I thought I would, but I haven't. I've gone 25,000 miles, but mostly around circles. I'm like Odysseus, going around in circles. I've been stuck in the Mediterranean and out to the Canary Islands. A lot of reasons for that. But I kind of like, oh my God, I got to cross the Mediterranean again and then get out to the Atlantic. And then I can start on my goal, which is to go around the world. A lot of times I feel like, oh, you know what? I've done it so much already. I'm just going to quit. But then what's my goal? I didn't have a goal. You lose. A man without a goal is like a ship without a rudder. And so you have to be able to focus on something and then make, like, what was it? Racing cars, raising kids. You're 53 and you don't have kids to raise anymore. Make an orphanage. Oh, I'm going to have a goal of going down to Guatemala and making the best orphanage, or somewhere where they're fucked up with kids, or in Central Africa. Who knows? A goal. Can't do it tomorrow, but you have a goal. And then you start working towards that goal. You have to have a positive thing to think about in order to guide you every day. And in my case, I wanted to sail around the world. Now, I got a really nice, expensive boat, but I can tell you, I could do it in a boat 1/10 this cost. And I knew that. But I shopped and shopped and shopped, and I got a good deal on this boat one day, and then I had some other things happen, and I had the money, and so I did what I could afford. And I could spend more money than what I have, for sure. I'm somewhere in the continuum. So that keeps you motivated. And the other thing was I wanted to have a relationship with my kids, despite my ex-wife's best efforts. I have a great relationship with 2 of my kids now, not 3, 2, but I still want the 3rd one. Think about it all the time. It's a long story beyond the scope of this, but I had a lot of good role models. My brother, God bless him, if he's watching, David, if he watches this, he was constantly telling me, Duane, just take the high road. Just take the high road. Because, you want to do horrible, evil things when somebody fucks you over. I was so mad. Oh, my God. So mad. So mad to, my ex-wife taking advantage of this and using this stupid law to destroy the integration of a beautiful family that we'd created. And that's exactly what happened. And the kids were negatively affected. And she said, oh, it won't matter. That does matter. Sorry.
So I guess the advice for somebody going through divorce, say who's facing catastrophe, is to imagine a new future, to have a goal, put one foot up in front of the other every single day, and just believe.
You got to keep it together and keep positive mental attitude by being focused on something that's better than this. Don't just start drinking. I drank for 2 years, by the way, through my divorce, and I never drank in my life. The pain was so bad. Just the pain of not seeing my kids, of having, because pain is emanated through your brain. You're figuring out a new way to solve a problem of getting up in the morning and going to go to work, and I went from having lines of credit to buy a property to not having anything. My ex-wife just destroyed the system that we had. Well, she expected me just to pay her forever. And I was like, no, I don't cotton to that. I'm not buying it. She goes, well, then you're going to lose everything. And I said, well, at least I'll be independent and free. She said, well, you can take that chance. She went to court. She kind of won. She took everything instead of half. But I got my freedom. I walked out with it's called a global settlement. So I was free. So for me, it was more important to be wholly independent than to have somebody be able to look over my shoulder for the rest of my life who hates me. I mean, why would she divorce me? So that's what the law would provide. Oh, by the way, this person you were married to and who hates your fucking guts, she said it. She told me on the day she wanted a divorce, I can't stand you anymore, I hate you. I was like, holy fuck, we've been married and sleeping in the same bed for 22 years. And today, this is what you tell me? And I try to talk her out of it for the next couple months. No way. And I'd say, okay, you didn't just think about that day. One day I got into her email or to her phone and I could see the messages and she'd been planning forever. And I was like, a couple of years. I was like, I just turned it off. I was like, this is hopeless. My wife on that day, she asked for the divorce. And I said, what are you talking about? We're going to do this. She goes, you owe me. It's like, I owe you. What do you mean I owe you? We've been sleeping in the same bed and sharing the same shit for 22 years. How could one of us owe the other anything? So you get half. Okay. But I don't owe you anything. Nobody owes anybody anything ever. It's bullshit. You make a decision, do something together. I mean, I guess if they fuck you over, but maybe, I don't know. But generally, no, you don't know. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. And she was throwing a fit. And I said, well, you know what? You don't like the way it went? I quit. By quitting, there was a moment where we could negotiate. If you're not willing to walk away from your situation that sucks, but have the balls and the self-confidence that you can succeed somewhere else, you're not negotiating in full confidence. You can't beg somebody to give you something. They have to want to give it to you. They have to need to give it to you. So my ex-wife wanted me to keep working for the next 20, 30 years for her benefit, wanted me to sign this contract that said I would, unless she gets married magically at that time. But if she was getting it from me, 20, 30,000 a month, why in the world would she? She would just enjoy that lifestyle. So, and what am I? I'm just a tax slave. And now, I mean, as long as I keep working and providing and I get, half of it or something, then I have to, what's my life? It's just to keep supporting that shit. So I was like, no, I'll take zero. So once I was willing to walk away with nothing, she had nothing to negotiate for. And she was very clever. She kept me in court for a couple of years.
Do you think you've recovered from the bitterness and the anger? Do you think you're in a different place now?
Yeah, well, what I did, I'll tell you what I did is studied psychology for 10 years. And I realized why the failure occurred. I mean, I am what I am. Okay, I'm a guy who likes to work hard and get stuff done. I'm kind of loud and boisterous, and I'm, make shit happen. And if you're not doing a good job at something and you're fucking up, I'm not the guy who's gonna, oh, you poor thing, politically correct. I'm just gonna tell you, what the fuck are you doing? No, don't do it like that. Do it like this. Don't roll up the hose like that. Roll it up like this. What's wrong with you? Is that popular today? Not really, but whatever. You're going to learn, guarantee you. But I'll go have a beer with you right after. I'm going to laugh at you to your face. And if you keep making the same mistake again, roll up the cord wrong every day, I'm send you back to school. I don't know. It's like socially, politically, I'm not correct. So, that's what I am. And I don't know. I mean, that's all I could complain about, and just some kind of gruff. But I can't change that. And I mean, that's my personality. And so my ex, she wasn't happy with that after a while. Truth is, she was never happy about it from the beginning. And this is what I learned by studying psychology and by studying history and by researching what happened over the years. She was an opportunist. I got snookered in a way. She gave me 3 kids and she stuck by my side for 22 years. Okay. She helped me a lot to make money, but I didn't ever get to use it for what I wanted. Not very much of it anyway. She mostly used it for what she wanted.
Okay. We want to talk to young 20, 30-year-old men, right, who are starting out. So what I want is your advice. So I'm going to ask you a question about advising young men who are starting out in life and want to generate wealth. And I want to hear your response, right? So Duane, if you were in your 20s again today and you were starting out and you wanted to build away wealth and create wealth, what would your advice be?
Well, I know how to buy and build real estate. So I would do that all over again. I would pick a place that has better politics for what I'm doing. Like right now, I do it in Texas or Tennessee or somewhere. And that's if you're in America. If I were in Greece, I would do it in the most popular places where tourism is, or maybe in Athens. Or if I was in Spain, I might do it in South. Every area has a place, right?
Hmm.
I would buy and hold real estate. And I'd
Would
buy
you,
it and never sell it.
would you go
Okay.
into the corporate world? Would you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, 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 not today, because there's, corporations,
I guess what
yeah,
I'm
they
asking
own
is
everything, but
how.
you got to be a political genius in order to succeed in corporations. And that's not who I am.
Hmm,
You asked if I was doing this again.
hmm.
I'm not politically astute personally. And if you are, if that's your thing, well, then yeah, for sure. Okay. When I left my dad's company, he was angry because he wanted me to take over his company, but I wanted to do my own thing. He said, okay, if you're going to do that, 2 rules: only work for yourself and hire a really good designer. My brother, you look at what he does, he works for himself and he has a great designer. Now, he happens to be a good designer of clothes and he hires others to help with it, but he works for himself. So, and he's in clothing. That has nothing to do with real estate, but we ended up in the same place.
So I guess what I'm hearing is if you were in your 20s today, be self-employed, back
Fuck
yourself,
yeah.
believe in yourself.
Oh, yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't work for Starbucks or whoever else, I don't know, a big company. You got to own the company. Like if you like boats or something, I would find a niche within the boat market and sell it to Beneteau. I'm going to make the very best steering wheel or something, or find something that doesn't work and figure out a better way to make it work and design, make it beautiful. And if you can't make it beautiful, hire somebody who knows how to make things beautiful. They're out there. There's all kinds of art students and design and graphic design people who are dying for work, and they'll work for nothing. They'll work couple $100, $500. You're going to get a great design from them, but it's the overall operation of the thing that you're going to create. You want to be that person. And yeah, you have to find
How important is networking, Duane?
huge. You got to keep track of everybody and be able and remember people. And you know what I do? I send a lot of postcards, not emails, postcards to people who meaningful in my life. And you get a postcard in the mail, like I might send a postcard to you pretty soon. And you're gonna get that thing and what am I gonna do with it? It's everywhere. You can't throw it away. It's hard to throw a postcard away. A little message on the back. Hey, it was great meeting you. Nice talking to you.
So that's the personal touch.
Right. They're gonna remember you.
Hmm.
And and it's gonna be beautiful. And you're gonna hang it on the wall because it's gorgeous. Right? Something stylish for a while. Unless you hate me, fuck that guy. I mean, you might burn it. Right? Use it as a dartboard, even better. Throw darts at that thing. Even then, you're thinking about it, right? But an email and a text message and a fucking Instagram message, that's bullshit.
So the personal touch, the relationship piece is huge in entrepreneurship.
Huge, 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 huge. Yes, it's very important.
And do quality work. Work for yourself.
Design matters.
Design matters.
Design. And you'd better fucking love it because you're going to be doing it all the time.
Yes.
Nobody said it's going to be easy.
So you got to love what you do because when it gets hard, you'll stop doing it if you don't love it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just like you. You want to have a podcast show and interview people. Oh, yeah. I'm going to start at 9. I'm going to be done at 5. I'm going to take an hour lunch and go down and drink coffee with everybody. Right? Is that what you're doing?
No, that doesn't happen.
No fucking way. Right? You're probably
Mm.
thinking about it at 3 a.m, going, oh my
Mm.
God,
Yeah.
he's in a different time zone. I better get up and set this up. Yeah, there's no way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope it helps everybody.
It was lovely talking to you, and it is an incredible lifestyle.
Thanks.
And one that you built pretty much yourself, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, got to keep positive and take the high road.